everyone, it's Pam from GlamJunkJournals, and I have been asked by a YouTube subscriber to do a series of tutorials on how I create a hardback journal. So we're going to go into it, and it's going to be a series of videos. I'm not sure how many there's going to be, but I just want to show you my process for making a journal. My hope for this video is to make it easy to follow, give you some step-by-step instructions, and for each segment to not go on too long. I'm hoping that you guys gather some cool ideas from me and it inspires you to make your own journals. Okay, so what I do first off is I find inspiration. So let me show you what my inspiration is going to be for this journal. It's this piece of fabric. Isn't that gorgeous? So I'm going to go with a vintage blue theme. I haven't thought of a catchy name for my journal, but this is what my inspiration is going to be, along with this gorgeous handkerchief. I love the way the two flower patterns kind of mimic each other, and what I'm going to do is bring in the blues and the purples and the yellows into my pages with all my ephemera. So from there, that's what I would suggest everyone do, is find an inspirational piece. It can be a piece of fabric, it can be a button, it can be a piece of scrapbook paper, anything. A piece of jewelry, doesn't matter. So from there, I gathered my supplies, and what I've decided I really like in my journals, sorry I hit the camera, is I love to add fabric to my journals. Now this is not going to be an all fabric journal like I've made, but I've also pulled some fabrics from my stash. Here is a lady's blouse that has blue and it's kind of a taupey gray. And if you put these all together, it all goes. Here's another pattern from my stash. Look at the gorgeous blue and gray. So we got that. Got some ticking here. Some blue lace. This is I think this is either a placemat or a small tablecloth. Some more blues. So what basically I've done is I've gathered a bunch of different materials, and I like different types and different weights of materials in my journals. So here's some blue lace from a thrift store skirt, and then some other blue lace, and I don't even know where I got this, and some blue tulle netting trim. So I'm going to put all that back. And so what I've done after gathering all my fabrics and my inspirational piece is I've picked some papers, and I've also decided I'm going to use a book for my cover. And the reason I like to use books, and this is from a thrift store, and of course I picked out blue. The reason I like to use books is they're very sturdy, but I've also used cardboard boxes, and those are perfectly fine for the journal covers. And with this particular book, I am going to cut out the spine because my journals tend to be very, very chunky. And so the spine is going to be bigger than this one. I know this. This is about 1 inch. And another reason I picked out this blue is if for some reason the blue shows through on the cover, I haven't decided what my embellishments are going to be on the cover, but I like the possibility, or I should say the option, of maybe the blue showing through, meaning I don't have to cover the whole thing like if it was some really weird color. But that's just my preference, what I like to do. So any thrift store book would work. What I'm going to start with is showing you how I deconstruct the book, and what I use is a box cutter and an X-Acto knife. And there's many different ways to do this. My husband always says, be careful with these things because I have a tendency to cut my fingers. But what I start with is on the inside, along the side here. I'm going to take my box cutter and I am going to stand up so that I don't like cut my leg or something. And just go along the side. And it's always a bonus if you get a book that has some really cool pages on the inside that you can use in your journals. This one I don't think does, but if you get like a vintage book with all sorts of graphics, that would be cool. I'm going to go on the back side of this, and this does take a little muscle here. Ooh, I got that one really good. Look at that. See? Oh, the whole thing just came right off. Yay! That's awesome. So let me see if I can get this side out. And I used to feel bad about cutting up books because I'm like, oh, you know, that's just, it's kind of a shame to cut them up. But, you know, I figure they're at a thrift store, so you know, someone donated these, and so I'm giving them a second life in the journals, and they're going to a good cause. You know, anytime I buy things at thrift shops, it's for like the food bank, or we have one up here that goes to the Animal Protection League. So I'm going to bend this, use a little muscle here, and I'm not being very careful because I only want the covers. I know in some other tutorials, now why can't I get this side? All right, bear with me here, folks. Some other tutorials, you remove the papers and keep the spine, and I have done that, and I could show that in a different tutorial here, but like I said, this one is just basically going to be taking the book apart. There we go. So I'll save these pages. You never know what you're going to use them for, right? Now this side has the spine left on it, and I do like to keep the spine after I've cut it off of the covers because I usually make a bookmark out of them or use it in my journal somehow. So let me get this off here. There you go. Yay. So save this for later. Put it over there. And then along the sides, I'm just going to cut off the excess. And it doesn't really matter that you have a real clean cut. I would just make sure it's not zigzag or something really funky. Get this side going. And I did want to mention, I try to get books that are, what the word is, average book size. You know, I don't know what normal is, but this one measures 6.5 by 9.5. And then what you want to do is decide how thick of a journal you want to make. Now me, it's just personal preference. I like mine to be chunky, and how many signatures you want in your book. I usually do 3 signatures, and for that we're going to create the spine today. And let me show you how I do that. I get a piece of cardboard, and it can be a cardboard, you know, any sort of heavy-duty cardboard. And what I've used before, let me show you that. I've used composition notebooks. This is one where I've used all the paper on the inside. This is a thick cardboard. This one is the back of one of my paper pads, which I'm going to show you guys later, which is an awesome paper pad. Just cut it to the length you want. So what I've done off camera is I've cut the spine exactly the same height as the 2 sides. So this is going to be 9.5, and you don't have to be exact, but I like to be pretty close, because when we attach this all together, if it's really short, you'll be able to see it at the end. So that's the plan there. So use any sort of heavy-duty cardboard. That is my go-to. I found that cereal boxes sometimes aren't as sturdy, and so look for something that is similar in weight to the book covers, or I should say sturdiness. And then what I do to create the spine is I get a piece of plastic. Now you can use Tyvek. I know a lot of journalers use Tyvek, which is a construction type of material. And basically what I like to think of is you want a piece of fabric that bends but is really strong. And let me show you what I'm talking about. This I got at Joann's, and I apologize, I don't know what this is called, the name of it, but it's a heavy-duty fabric that has almost like a polyurethane coating on it, and it stretches and bends, but you can't rip it. So that might be interfacing. I'm not sure of the name of it, but you want something like this. What I've used before, I've also used Tyvek, and what I'm going to do today is something that I bet most of us have. It is a plastic mailer. So this is a soft-sided mailer, and I'll show you what I cut it off of. It's just a mailing envelope where you stick it in here, you know, and you can get these at Walmart, or you could even use a soft-sided Amazon mailer, because these are very, very strong but flexible, and that's the goal, is you want something flexible because you're going to be folding the spine over. So what I've done is I've cut some of my mailer right here, and I've cut it to be a little bit larger than my spine. And by the way, I've decided on a 2-inch spine, so this is 2-inch. You guys can decide any size you want. And I cut it a little bit wider on each side and a little bit longer. And I'll show you why in a minute. So that is what I'm going to be using for my spine. And if you look at the top, this is the part of the mailer where you would have stuck, you know, your package in. I did glue this together. I'm using both the front and the back sides. I just want to give it even more stability. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just lay down our spine, putting it together with the piece of cardboard right in the middle. So what I'm using is my Fabrifix, which is the same thing as Fabri-Tac by Beacon. And if I can get, hopefully this is not clogged. No, it's not. So what you want to do is you want to get a generous amount. And what I do is I try to go right up to the edge of the mailer and get a bunch in the middle. And then I'm going to also put some on my piece of cardboard. Get some blobs here, get that going. And I'm going to place it in the middle of my plastic. And it doesn't have to be exact. And then smush it down with my wallpaper spreader, or you can use a ruler or your fingers or a bone folder. And then I'm going to add some more to the edges. I left a little bit at the bottom. Get a lot in there, and you want to get it into this what's going to be the seam, which is right here next to the cardboard, and that's what you're going to abut the book covers to. So get that going. Come on. Okay. Line that up. All right, that looks good. You want a teeny bit of space, but not a lot. Because in journals I've made in the past, if I left a lot right here, it kind of flops around. And you want it to fold just like a book would fold. So there's not a lot of space in between. So that looks pretty good. A little bit of space in between, but not a ton. Press that down, and what we're going to do is we're going to move and we're going to fold this over. I'm going to get some more Fabri-Tac up here at the top. And the reason, a lot of people have questioned, well, do you do your cover first? Hold on, my camera is moving. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. I caught it before it fell. Jeez. Okay. Hopefully that'll stay now. Let me get back in frame. Holy moly. All right. I have it clipped onto the side of my desk, one of these little camera holders. And you think it's secure, but then it kind of creeps after a while. What was I talking about? I forgot. So you want to get glue along the edges, and then along the sides of the book covers here. And be generous. I've just found that this is the best all-round glue. There's all sorts of other glues out there, but for me, this one seems to perform the best. And what I did is I just folded down the top of the fabric, or I should say the plastic mailer, and I pulled it very tight on the end. And I'm going to smush it down, again using my wallpaper spreader, and go along into the seams, right along there. And you're not going to see any of this, so it doesn't really make a difference if it's looking kind of ugly. Okay, now here at the bottom, I've got a little bit extra, which is what I wanted. Now there's two ways to do this. Now since my extra right here is a little long, I'm going to fold it over this way. Now if this one was longer, I would fold it up. Doesn't matter because I'm going to be covering my spine with fabric. So turn this over, and there's the back. Go along the seams again. And then I am going to fold this up onto itself. Now I'm wondering if that's going to be too thick. No, it looks perfect. Just don't want to add too much thickness to the end of my journal. So I was wondering if like doubling this up would make it too thick, but it's not. So I'm going to glue that down and fold this up onto itself. It's looking good, guys. Oh, I know what I was talking about. The question comes up a lot. Well, do you do your cover first with your spine, or do you do the pages first? And it really, there's no right or wrong way. That's for sure. There's no right or wrong way to do this. But the reason I'm doing at least constructing my cover, I'm not going to do all the embellishing and all that kind of stuff today. is to give you guys an idea of where to go next. And to me, this dictates the size of my pages. It dictates the number of signatures I'm going to use, so I have that all planned out, just how big my journal's going to be. So I like to have this as a reference point. Now from here, I'm going to fold it up and get that into the seam, like make a crease right there. And then there is your journal cover. Now what I want to do is along the outside, there's going to be some, edges that didn't get glued down all the way. Just going to go along the edge here. And then I think it's always a good practice to let this sit for a while, because the longer you let it sit, the more sturdy it becomes. Fabrifix and Fabri-Tac are permanent, but I find that the more I mess with them when they're not dry, the more they can get wonky. So I'm going to set it and forget it. See on this side, see it's coming up because I'm messing with it, see? So I'm going to glue both sides down along the edges. And it doesn't matter if you get glue on the outside or any of that, because it's all going to be covered up. Stick that down. And believe me, once it's stuck, it's stuck. So there is the cover. I'm going to let this sit, and I'm going to go on to how to pick your pages, or how I do that, and constructing, or I shouldn't say constructing, figuring out what's going to be in each signature. So I'm going to let this sit, and I'll bring that back later. So what I did is I gathered a bunch of papers for my journal. And the nice thing about that book, which is a 6.5 by 9, check this out. Let me get this back. I should have showed you this. Let me get some of my papers out, and I'll show you each kind of paper and what I use for each. Let's say, for example, I've got a bunch of tea-stained writing pages, and I use these a lot in my journals just for space to write. So this piece of paper, I haven't cut it at all. You fold it over in half, check it out. It's almost the exact same size as the book. I lucked out on that. So sometimes if I'm doing a bigger book, I have to put 2 pages together. This one, folding over the pages, is going to fit just right in my book. Yay! So, get this out of the way again. So this is going to be my guideline. So what I like to do is gather a variety of pages. So we've got the book pages, the lined tea-stained sheets for journaling, right? And I've got some, this is resume paper. And I'm going to show you the different weights too. So this is not lined for writing, but I find that it's a heavier weight than just copy paper, and those work interspersed in between the lined pages. And then I've also got some pages that I have printed off on my printer. These are from the Graphics Fairy, and this, so it's tea stained on the back, and I like to use those in between my writing pages just for color and to give a little interest. This is some writing paper that I got at a thrift store, and I've tea stained it, and I love the way the blue border goes around it. So I'm going to use some of that. This is heavier too. This is like cardstock weight. And then in addition, just pulling whatever I have, I've got vintage book pages from 1904. Yay. And that's some, those are smaller, so I'll have to figure out how to, you know, if I'm going to fold them over or make hinges on them, and I'll go through that with you guys. This is just some scrap papers that I have. This is from a calligraphy book. I've got music sheets. I've got a music cover that just happens to be blue, so I'm definitely going to use that. I think that's pretty. So basically get a bunch of different pages. And then on top of that, let me see what else I got here. I've got Edith Holden, of course. And the reason I'm using this is the yellow. Let me find my inspirational pieces here. I'm going to be bringing out the yellow and the blue and the purple, so I looked for any sort of graphics that have those colors in them. I've got a blue doily. This is the interior page of another thrift store book I disassembled, and I just love that. So bonus, if you get on the inside of a thrift store book, have some designs, so that's always fun to look at. Got some scrapbook paper, more Edith Holden, and some more printables, and I will probably do some more printables later. I've got a napkin that I may use, and a blue doily. So I gathered everything blue that I had. Well, not everything, but gives me a good start. Gives me a good start. So let's put together some of the signatures, and I'll show you why I do that before I start doing anything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather a bunch of these writing pages and just fold them over. And I like the way some of them are cut. Some of them have more stain than others. And what you can definitely do is, you know, alter how you fold the pages. So for example, if I wanted a shorter page on one side, go like that, and then maybe a little fold out on the other side, go like that, stick that in there. And then I've got some of the thicker cardstock here. This is the resume paper. Oh, and I did want to go through the different weights of paper, because when I first started this, I didn't understand. Maybe I still don't understand, but this is what I've gleaned over the years of making journals, is there's different weights of paper, and each one has, I think, kind of a specific role or best fits with certain parts of your journal. So for example, this lined paper is like 20 pound. That's how they gauge paper weight, is by pounds. So, you know, regular copy paper or notebook paper is going to be about 20 pounds weight. This resume paper, let me show you this. I got this at a thrift store too. You never know. You got to look at the paper section too. It's resume paper. And if you look here, it says it is 32 pound. So it's a heavier weight than just the regular lined paper. And I like this because it adds some heft. So if you want to add a bunch of embellishments on this or pockets, it's not too flimsy. So we're going to put some of those in there. Just fold some of these up. Now this is just the beginning. This is the preliminary page setup, if you want to say that. And then I looked up cardstock, and this is a cardstock that I got at Walmart, and this is 78 pound, so it's even a heavier weight than the resume paper. So that's another thing to consider, is how many pieces of the lighter, you know, lined paper you want versus the heavier cardstock and the resume paper and that kind of stuff. Now this one here, this is going to be more of the cardstock weight. I'm going to put that to be one of my pages too. And another thing is you can always cut these in half, use half of it, not the whole thing. So maybe folding it the long way. So let's see how that works. Well, that didn't work. Hold on. What am I saying here? I don't know what I'm saying. Fold it the other way. I'll have to figure that out. And then I like these smaller sheets, so different widths and lengths to me gives my pages interest, and it kind of breaks up the eye. So we're going to fold some of these over. Let's add some Edith Holden. No, I don't want to add Edith Holden right now. I'll add some of these. That's really pretty. I love that. So pretty. Wow. Okay, let's see, what else do I have here? Can intersperse some music sheets. Now these might need to be cut down because they're a little larger than my my lined paper here, but not too bad. So let's see how that goes. Get some of that in there. This one's really pretty too. Were I a Violet? Ooh, hey. Look at how old this is, you guys. Oh, it's really kind of fallen apart. So I'm wondering, I don't know how to fold that. Maybe I'll tear it in half here. This is such fragile paper. Fold it that way. That's really pretty. Love that. All right, and this one came off, so you have to save that, right? You got to save everything. All right, what else do I have over here? Oh, got some cardstock. Let's see if this cardstock folds over well. I think so. That's really pretty. I used that in another one of my journals. So from here, let me move this stuff out of the way. I am going to assemble my signatures. And this is just, like I said, this is just preliminary, so it's not going to be the end result because I always mess around with stuff and figure out what looks good and then change things around. So each of my signatures, I like to do a variety of different papers. So I'm going to start with some of each. And one thing that I have learned is the front page of each of the signatures, I like to have a heavier weight piece of paper. And the reason for that is it kind of creates a protective cover, if you want to say, for all of the pages inside. So for example, if I use a piece of the lighter weight paper, if there's some of the heavier weight paper in between or under it, this may get torn easier. So I'm going to start one with a heavier piece of paper. It just kind of, to me, gives it some stability. So I'm going to layer, let's see, a writing page, a piece of the tea-stained cardstock, and then maybe that little book page, which looks fabulous, a music page, another writing page, and then another tip is, let's say this was the center of my signature, I also put a heavier piece in the center for the same reason. It's because when I attach this into the spine, I do use a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, and putting the needle through a thinner piece of paper on the middle, when you pull it tight, you'll see what I'm talking about when we do that. You just want something along the spine here in the center of the signature that is can withstand the pulling tight of the strings, basically. So I am going to use a piece of cardstock because this one will withstand a lot of stuff. So there's one. Let's try another one. Let's see, what else? I need another piece of heavy cardstock. Let's see. That one, even though it's plain, that's okay. Add some writing space in there. So really, it's whatever you want to do. And then what I do, oh, this is going to come off too. I'll have to save that. Get some more writing pages. I'm going to use that for the center. So maybe another writing page. So hopefully you guys get the gist of what I'm doing here. I'm just creating some signatures with some varying papers. So let's see, this is going to be my third one. I need to fold over some more writing space. And I have found that this is just personal preference for me. The tea-stained paper I like better just because the coffee-stained paper, for me, it has too strong of a smell, even when it's dried. And I don't know if it's the type of coffee I'm using or what the deal is, but to me, it's too strong of a smell, and it doesn't, in my opinion, smell like coffee. It just smells like, I don't know what. So that's why I like to use tea, because I don't think it has any sort of smell once it's dry. So here's my 3 signatures. Got them all going here. So we've got how many pages in each? And this is, again, personal preference. So each side counts as 1 page. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 total. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. One more, okay? And then on here, we've got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So pretty good. Now from here, I like to add more journaling space because I have been asked by certain subscribers to add more journaling space to my journals because I tend to embellish a lot and I still want to leave some space for writing. So if you notice, this is a little bit different than my other lined paper. It's got the, you know, the dotted line in between. This was penmanship paper. Do you guys remember that? When you had to do your lines in between, you know, the lowercase here and the uppercase up there. Ha! So I got that at a thrift store. So let's see how much. I'll put that somewhere in between there. Let's see how this one looks for writing. Yeah, that looks, I'm going to stick another one right there. And like I said, I do like to vary what order they go in. In other words, I don't have all my cardstock together. I don't have all my music sheets together. I don't have all my writing space together. All right. So there is the 3 that I have. And this is cool because it doesn't look like there's going to be that many that need to be trimmed. Let me get my cover again. So if you look at it, it's looking pretty good. So if you see the side there, if you look right there, you can see 3 of my signatures. I think you can. Yeah, right there. Now I add a lot of pockets and embellishments and fabric to my pages, so I like to leave extra space, if you know what I mean, like right in there. I don't make the pages so tight that you can't fit more things into the journal, like ephemera and all that other stuff. So this is going to be a good start for our journal. I think in the next segment we are going to do some embellishing on the pages, adding some pockets, adding some fabric interspersed in between the pages, and maybe some stenciling and further embellishing of the pages before we attach them to the spine. Reason I like to do that is once the papers, the signatures are attached into the spine, I find it harder to add further embellishments onto the pages. And again, that's just personal preference. That's what works best for me. So stay tuned for the next installment, and we are going to be glamming up and embellishing our pages. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon in my next installment. Bye!